Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today we're going to talk about all of the books I read during the month of January. So during the month of January, I read 12 books total, which is quite a lot considering I felt like I was in kind of like a reading slump. I just didn't feel like reading a lot. And so you'll kind of see that as I go through. I'm going to go through some of my stats and you'll see kind of what I mean. So of the 12 books that I read, 5 were physical, 6 were audio, and I read 1 ebook. As far as the source goes, 8 of them were library books and 4 were books that I owned. The age range that I read from, 7 of them were middle grade, 3 were young adult. That's a lot more young adult than I typically read, and 2 were adult. And then as far as ratings go, I had 3 5-star ratings, 6 4-star ratings, 2 3-star ratings, and 1 2-star rating. I read 3 graphic novels, and as far as genres go, just kind of general fiction was my most read genre, with contemporary kind of being included with that. So yeah, that's kind of just a very brief overview of some of my stats from this month. I felt like I had a decent reading month. I don't think I found any that are like new favorites of the year or anything like that. Nothing that like really stood out to me, but it was overall good. So the way I'm going to go through these, I'm going to start with my lowest rated book and work my way up to my 5-star reads. So let's get started. My one and only 2-star book that I read this month was the final book of the Prophecies Begin series within the Warriors series by Aaron Hunter. This was the final book of the series that I've been reading with my kids. Most of the books up to this point I've given 3 stars. This one, no. I really, really did not like the way that the series ended, is what it all boiled down to. It wasn't that the writing was inherently bad. There were just some plot choices that I thought were not good, and I didn't like it. That being said, as far as a kid's book goes, I thought that it was great. My kids love this series. I've talked about this multiple times. They are obsessed. My daughter has, since I finished reading this month, she's already finished the next series and is about halfway through the 3rd series. So she's very, very into this. This is a series about cats that live in a woods back behind like a timber mill. And it's just kind of, they live in clans and it's all about clan life, and some of the clans are fighting and that kind of stuff. It is fairly graphic and violent. One of the things that I really like though about this final book especially is that there are definitely, you can see Christian themes throughout the book. You could tell that the authors took inspiration from some of the Christian beliefs, but they were not clearly stated. I think even if you were not a Christian, you would like it. It was just something that provided a talking point for me and my children. I really liked it, but I did not like the way that the series ended. I thought it was really bad. So, but my kids loved it. So adult versus kid opinion on this one. Anyway, so that was my 2-star read for the month. So I had 2 3-star reads. The first of which was Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. This is a very, very short middle grade book, and I read this out loud to my now 6-year-old. So this was a book I read out loud to her at bedtime. We read through it. I gave this one 3 stars. Mostly because I really like Roald Dahl's writing style. The storyline in this, though, was not good. It did not teach good morals. It is about Mr. Fox, who steals stuff from these 3 farmers, and they decide that they're done with it and they want to kill him, pretty much. So they're trying to get him so they can get rid of him. And he is just kind of a trickster and tries to figure out a way to continue to steal food from them. And it's all about him getting away with stealing food. And I don't know, I didn't like the moral, like I said, aspect of this, but I really do enjoy Roald Dahl's writing style. So it was okay. Not my favorite Roald Dahl though. So I read that one. And then the other 3-star book that I read this month was also a middle grade, and that was The Girl Who Stole an Elephant by Nisrana Farouk, I think is how you pronounce her name. This was Gavin Hetherington and Jade from, I think it's JD Ray Reads, are doing like a middle grade monthly book club, and this was the pick for January. And so I went ahead and got it from my library. This was my ebook that I read. It was okay. It was definitely, I think, written for younger kids. The plot was just very simple. There was a lot of things kind of falling into place really easily. There was not a lot of confrontation. There was kind of good lessons being taught through it, kind of not. But it was interesting. It's set in, I'm going to mess it up, not India, but somewhere around there. Oh my goodness, this is so bad. I'm gonna mess that up. But it's set around there, and it is about this little girl who is stealing things from the royal family to pay for her villagers' needs. So like at the beginning of the book, she steals the queen's jewels to pay for this boy who was like attacked by a crocodile or an alligator. He needs his foot, like medical attention for his foot, and his family can't afford it. So she steals the jewels to pay for his medical needs. Anyway, and so throughout the book, her and her friends end up getting like on this journey in the jungle. They're running away, and it's just kind of about them. It's very action packed. I did appreciate that aspect of it. Some of the characters I liked, some of them I was like, meh. But yeah, it was just, like I said, the writing was very basic, blah, not anything really enticing. And yeah, so that was another 3-star read for me. Moving on to my 4-star reads, as always, these tend to be my highest number. I typically have the highest number of 4-star reads in a month. So I'm just going to kind of start at the top. The first one I rated 4 stars was Karen's Witch. This is a graphic novel adaptation of the Babysitter's Club, the Babysitter's Little Sister books, and this was the first one that has been released. This is an adaptation that is by Katie Farina. Sorry, I keep looking down. I have all the authors written down because I don't have all these books with me. I've had to return a lot of them to the library already. So anyway, Katie Farina did this adaptation, and I thought it was great. The illustrations were really, really well done. I thought it was a great adaptation. I loved Babysitter's Little Sister growing up. Even more, I think, than the Babysitter's Club. I read the Little Sister ones even more. So I really loved this adaptation. And it was just about Karen, who is Christy from the Babysitter's Club, her stepsister, her little stepsister, and her thinking that the next door neighbor is a witch, and kind of the hijinks that she gets involved in trying to prove that she's a witch. So that was 4 stars. I really enjoyed that. My next 4-star read was American Royals by Catherine McGee. This is just one that I picked up because I was just in the mood for it. This was definitely a mood reading book for me. And this is like an alternate future or an alternate universe, because it's like present day, but if the United States was a monarchy instead of a democracy. So when we won the Revolutionary War, George Washington became king instead of president. And kind of what would the US look like today? And it's following the royal family, but mostly like the teenagers and the kids within the royal family. So we have, the princess and the prince and their friends and their suitors and all of that. And I thought this was great. It was what I needed at the time. It wasn't mind-blowing. It wasn't like a book that changed my life, but it was good. And it was totally like the selection. I got the selection vibes from it. Like the selection meets the royal we. That's kind of what I got from it. It's a YA book, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. So that one got 4 stars for me, and that one I listened to on an audiobook, and the audiobook was great too. So there's that. All right, the next 4-star book that I read was also another audiobook that I listened to, and it was Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center. This is one that when I finished listening to it, I immediately called my mom, and I was like, okay, I need you to listen to this because I need to talk to somebody about it, because there was just so much to unpack, I feel like, with this book. And after talking it out with her and kind of going through all my thoughts with her, I kind of came to the realization that this book just had too much in it. There were too many themes in it. You have the basic plot storyline of this book is that you have this woman who is a firefighter, and she ends up going to live with her mother, who is estranged, and she isn't talking to her mother. Well, she talks to her occasionally, but she's never had a relationship with her since she was 16 years old. And so she goes to live with her mother, transfers to a new fire department. They don't want a woman there, and she just kind of wants to get by and not have any like thing fall apart. And it's her story about, it's a romance. So there you go. However, within all of that, you have a lot of talk about, there's grief involved, there's sexual assault involved in it. There is, the mother is dealing with a illness, so you have that. You have the toxic masculinity from the fire department. You have opioid abuse. You have, it's just like all these things all piled on, one on top of the other, on top of the other. And it was just a lot. And I feel like Catherine Center could have left a few of those elements out, and the book would have been stronger and focusing on just a couple of the topics rather than piling as many ideas into one book as possible, which is kind of what it felt like happened. So there are a lot of trigger warnings for this book. Look them up if that is something that you are needing. But I ended up giving it 4 stars pretty much because I really enjoyed listening to it. Like I said, I had some qualms with it, but at the end of the day, when I finished listening to the book, I really enjoyed my time listening to it. I would highly suggest this book for people that are fans of Chicago Fire, because it reminded me a lot of that book, or of that TV show. So yes, definitely if you are a fan of Chicago Fire, check this out. Anything like that. But I enjoyed it, but I also see the issues with it as well. So if you've read this one, I'd love to chat with you about it, because like I said, I just feel like there was a whole lot to unpack with that one. All right, the next 4-star book that I read this month is Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson. This is a book that was on my Growing TBR last month, and that is because it is our community reads book for this year. Every year, my community, the library, hosts a community reads, and they typically have a YA and adult book, and then a middle grade book, and then a picture book for kids. And this year, the YA/adult book was Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson, and the middle grade book I'm currently reading is called Some Places More Than Others, also by Renee Watson. And then the library brings the author in to speak at the end of the month, end of March. And yeah, so anyway, read this book. I really enjoyed it. It is about a young Black girl living in Portland, Oregon, and just kind of her experience with high school and living in a poorer part of town and going to a private school. She has a scholarship for the school, and just kind of what that looks like. She's getting all this assistance, and how she reacts to that and how other people see that. And she's an artist. There's a lot of art in this book, and it was beautiful. It is read by the author, so I did listen to this one on audiobook as well. It is read by Renee Watson, and I thought the audiobook was so good. A lot of the chapters were very short, and a lot of them were very poetic, and I just really, really loved Renee's portrayal of, I'm sure some of her own life experiences, and just allowing teenagers to see the world from a different set of eyes. And I really liked it. So I'm definitely looking forward to listening to her speak in March. All right, and then my last 4-star book of the month was The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This one I struggled with at the end because, and I've heard a lot of people say this, I've given every single book in this series 4 stars, but I think overall I would give the series as a whole 5 stars. And that's like kind of an odd thing to say. This was so good. When I first finished it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that ending, because it kind of came out of left field, some of the things in this. And I wasn't quite prepared for it to go the direction that it did, but after sitting on it for a while, I really feel like it was a great conclusion to a great series. And it's definitely one that makes you think. There are a lot of themes in this about death and overpopulation and the future of the world and good versus evil and what makes somebody good and what makes somebody evil and ambition. And it's just, I love this series. This is the third book in the Arc of the Scythe series. Sorry, I didn't say that before. And yeah, I read Scythe and Thunderhead in October, I think. I can't even remember now, and I'm the one that hosted the read along. I think it was October this past year, and bought the Toll as soon as it came out and finally got around to reading it, and I'm so glad. It took me all month to read this book because I read the physical copy, and I don't read very fast when I read physically, so it took, and it's a chunker of a book also. But it took me quite a while to read it, but I really, really enjoyed it, and this is another one that I immediately, when I finished it, I called up my mom and I was like, you have to read this series because I need to talk about it with somebody. And so she just picked up Scythe and is reading Scythe now. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, so love this. If you have read this series, I would love to hear your opinions, connect with me, chat with me about this. I am planning on doing a full series review on this whole series, so stay tuned for that. That should be coming up sometime this month. But yeah, 4 stars, but a really high 4 stars. All right, and then we're moving on to my 5-star books. And oh wait, no, I have one more 4-star book. So the last 4-star book that I have for the month is Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel adaptation. And this is one Tia from Tia and All the Books and I are hosting the Anne Along this year. And we are reading through the entire Anne of Green Gables series. So we read Anne of Green Gables this month. And so that's coming up shortly. But after I finished reading the physical book, I grabbed the graphic novel adaptation. This is done by Mariah Marsden and illustrated by Brianna Thumler. And it was a really good adaptation. I enjoyed it. This is some of the pictures. So it was a good kind of just brief overview of the book. You know, they took one chapter would be like 2 pages in this, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was very accurate to the book, and yeah, 4 stars. Loved it. All right. Now we are moving on to my 5-star reads. And the first 5-star read that I had this month is This Was Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. This is a graphic novel, middle grade graphic novel, and this was on a lot of the Owl Crate Girls top of the yearbooks. And so I had already had it on my TBR from one of their other videos, and so I went ahead and picked it up and read through it, and it was fantastic. Let me see if I can find, here's some of the illustrations, but it was really, really good. And it is all about these kids that live in this town and the town has a lantern festival every fall equinox or something like that, whatever that day is. But every year at that time, they do a lantern festival where they all stand on the bridge and they throw their lanterns down into the river and watch them float away. And this year, this group of friends decides that they are going to follow the lanterns down the river to see what happens to them. And it just goes from there. And it is magical and it is fantastic, and just, I loved it. I loved this graphic novel. So if you're into graphic novels, pick this one up. You will not regret it. So that was 5 stars. My next 5-star book that I want to talk about is Anne of Green Gables. This is my thrifted copy of Anne of Green Gables. And like I said, we read this as part of Anne Along, and I loved this book. There were so many quotable moments in this book and so many good life lessons. And we get to see Anne from age 11, I think, through 16. Grow up in this book and just kind of what happens to her and how she matures. And I loved watching kind of that progression through like the preteen years. And I mean, back when this was written, 16 was adult. And so it was just such a refreshing read. I'm not huge into classics, and so it's kind of hard for me to get into them. But reading through this and just the wisdom that she held in that little brain of hers was just so inspiring. And I loved this. 5 stars. Tia has a whole review up on this that just like made me sob. And yeah, so definitely go check out her review for this too. I cannot speak as eloquently as her, and I don't have the personal attachment like she did to this. But that being said, I still really, really, really loved it. I will say that her continuously down, like talking down on herself for having red hair bugged me in this book. Like, I know throughout history it was kind of seen as like a bad thing to have red hair, but it just bugged me because my daughter has red hair, and like, I don't know if I would want her to read this because she's constantly calling herself ugly for having red hair, and I'm like, I don't ever want my kid to read this and think that she's ugly. So I don't know. That's my like one little thing that I'll throw in that I took out of this that I wasn't like thrilled about. But other than that, it was great. So that was a 5-star read. And then my last 5-star read of the month was an audiobook that I listened to. And I picked this up highly because of Krista from Books and Jams. And that was Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. And this book was just, brilliant. I now can't wait to pick up the book that Krista has been raving about this month. Go check out her wrap up if you haven't already. But I think that that will be coming here as soon as I can fit it in. But Just Mercy was the story of Brian Stevenson, who was a death trial lawyer, and he is working, or he was working. I don't know if he's still in business, but he was working for a nonprofit that was working to get death row inmates off of death row inmates that were wrongfully put on death row off of death row. And so, whether they were innocent or whether they were put on death row as juveniles or whether they were mentally handicapped or, whatever, there were a number of different issues that were brought up in this book. And it just makes you realize how broken our criminal justice system is and the prison system in the United States, how it's just gotten out of control. And it definitely brought to light a lot of things that I was unaware of. So I always appreciate nonfiction books that do that and just open my eyes to things that I never knew. Like, I knew it was an issue, but I didn't really take the initiative to deep dive into why it was an issue or who it was affecting and that kind of thing. So the one thing that I will say I appreciated about this book is that it did not focus on race being an issue. It focused on class and wealth and poverty. And, in the beginning of the book, he says, the opposite of wealth is not poverty, or not, the opposite of poverty is not wealth, it's justice. And I think that is significant, and a lot can be learned just from that simple statement. So absolutely brilliant. Loved it. Go read it if you haven't. I know a Book Olive hosted a whole like read along of this in the fall, and I wasn't able to participate in it at the time, but it was a fantastic book. So those were the 12 books that I read during the month of January. So if you have read any of these, as always, please comment down below. I love to talk to you about that. And yeah, are you going to be participating in Analog moving forward? Did you participate in Analog this past month? I would love to know that. But anyway, I think that's it for this time. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya!